This is Dominique with Sodom Life Skills. I wanted to go ahead and deal with change today. Um, the process of change, coping with change in life is never easy. Every change, whether big or small, is still will still have an impact on your life. Some change we initiate, others we do not. Some change can be enormous, such as a marriage, a new home, a new baby, loss of a job, divorce or bereavement, whichever. Whether or not you initiated the change, everyone knows that these levels of changes can be very stressful and difficult to cope with. Now, there are some things we can do to make change go a little more smoothly. There's a concept that says when you don't know what to do, just don't do anything. And staying still while things are changing around you is probably one of the best advice that I was giving. Staying still, gathering information, asking yourself what exactly is going on here. Did I initiate this change? What do I know? What have I already experienced with this change? Is one of the way of going about it. The other thing is it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference whether you choose to change or not. You cannot rush it. There's no such thing as rushing a change. It's gonna take its toll. Some people love changes. They see it as a challenge in life. They love it. They appreciate it, and they see it as, okay, one more thing for me to deal with. And sometimes what they often do is they oversimplify the change, not realizing that with every change there are other small little changes that takes place in your life, and that can turn your life upside down sometimes. I read somewhere something that says if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, then you need to change the way you think about it. When you are in a situation you cannot change, the only thing you can do is change yourself in order to deal with the situation. The number one thing you can do is ask yourself, what changes am I really experiencing today? What are some of the difficulties? What are some of the frustration? What is it that I can accept as this change occurs? And then another question is, what have I tried? What have I already tried? What has worked in the past? And what is going to work? What may work today? If you have already tried several different steps and nothing is working, the only thing you can do right now is go in a different direction. Solicit help from a third party. And if you don't know what to do, then do nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can expect a reaction with every change. And most people will say, well, I don't know why this happened to me. I don't know why that happens to me. But you know what? That's just your reaction to the change. Every change, there's a process of grief that takes place. Even when it is a good change, even when it is a new marriage or a new baby, the family has to grieve the loss of their two-ness and moving into a three-ness when it comes to welcoming a new baby home. Let yourself grieve the loss. No matter how good it is, it's still a loss. And with every loss, there has to be a grieving process. Third thing you can do is you can go with the flow. Try not to resist the change. Just let it happen. But bear in mind that the more you resist change, the more difficult it is. And then the more it's going to stress you out, the more it's going to take out of you. The secret is to be flexible. Be as flexible as you can with this change. Other thing you can do is hang on to the familiarity. Hang on to the things that's familiar. Let's say you're moving to a new state, or you're going somewhere that you don't know anything about. Well, one, you should get as much information about the place as possible, because it helps alleviate some of the sting in the newness of the place. But when you try to hang on to the familiarity, to things that's familiar, remind yourself of how much of life is really changing. Because sometimes one change can make it seem like all of life is changing. But in actuality, it's just one aspect. It's just one little teeny bit of your life. Though it affects other areas of your life, your entire life has not changed as a result of that. Get supports. This is a good time, and I mentioned this a lot in group. This is a good time for you to find your support network. Build your support network. I'm talking about the positive people. I'm not talking about the negative folks who's going to tell you, oh my gosh, your life is ending because of this one change. Don't try to cope alone. Don't try to keep your feelings to yourself. Always try to find someone to talk to about the change, because it helps clarify sometimes some of the things that you're going through. If it's a big change, if it's a divorce, if it's a death of a loved one, the bigger the change, the more you have to divide it into small portion. You can't try to eat it all at once. You have to go ahead and break it down into small portion, and then divide it, and then deal with it one aspect at a time, and then find the good in it. Believe it or not, with every change, there's a good in it. It's not easy to see at first. It's not easy for you to see the good in it when it first happens, because some changes can be extremely difficult. And as a matter of fact, a lot of changes are just difficult, whether good or bad anyway. If it's a death of an illness, sometimes there's not any change in it. But even when it's a death of a loved one, you can say, well, and if it's a loved one that was suffering, you're looking at the fact that the person is not here, maybe they're not suffering anymore. There may not, the good in it may not be apparent at first, but eventually, as the years go by and as time goes by, you kind of see the good in it, and you kind of see some of that the change can be replaced by some other good changes. And then last but not least, know that this is not the end. Change happens, and this is not the end of life. All change comes to an end. It's not going to last forever. The circumstances that you are in today is not going to last forever. It's going to change. That too shall pass is what I always say. And knowing that, and I have to keep reminding myself sometimes that too shall pass, that this is just a bumpy road that I'm going through, that I'm going to get to the other side of this, and that my life is going to be wonderful once more as long as I continue to breathe. And that's the whole process. There's a beautiful picture that my friend sent me that says just keep breathing. And breathing is what you do. If you continue to keep in mind that too shall pass, that change is a process. If you don't like something, you can change it, provided that you can. If you cannot, then you have to change the way you think about it. The Serenity Prayer, absolutely fantastic. This is a good time for you to pick up that Serenity Prayer and get at it and repeat it to yourself and realize that whatever you cannot change, eventually it will change.